Welcome to News Breakdown. So this is one of my most popular videos on the channel, and since I have been reviving the channel, I did decide to update the most popular video on the channel. As you can see from the title, you have clicked on this video. If you are an existing subscriber, then you will know what video I am referring to. The current video that exists does have like a robotic voice. At the time, it didn't have the right equipment, etc. to make quality videos, but that's the purpose of this particular video. So the title of the video is the Semen Drinking Tribe, and this tribe is known as the Sambian tribe, or the Sambia People, also known as the Simbarianga. They are a tribe of mountain-dwelling, hunting and horticultural people who inhabit the fringes of the Eastern Highlands province of Papua New Guinea. The Sambia people speak Simbari, which is a trans-New Guinea language belonging to the Angang branch. They are generally known by catch-for anthropologists for their acts of ritualized homosexuality and semen ingestion practices with pubescent boys. It is deemed as ritualistic homosexuality by Western standards, whereas for the Sambian people, this is a ritual and a tradition that has gone on for many years. In today's society, we have to be careful about how we view and portray cultural practices, as due to our own ignorance and conditioning as inhabitants of the West, which are heavily influenced by Eurocentric theories, we are prone to condemn things that are unfamiliar to us or might deem them to be barbaric. The full initiation is reported to start with the members of the tribe being removed from their mothers at the tender age of 9. The young boys go through a 6-stage process of affirming one's manhood, and this can take anywhere from 10 to 15 years until these young men give birth to a child with a female. Much of the initiation and training is characterized by what some have deemed to be highly eroticized and sexual. To become a man, and in essence a warrior, these young men are taught how to detach themselves from their mothers and the women around them as means of showing that they can live without them and prove their masculinity. This process is not always voluntary and can involve threats of death if the young boys do not comply with the ritualistic wishes of their tribal elders. The children are then beaten and stabbed in their nostrils with sticks to make them bleed right at the beginning of the process. It's usually some sort of cane stick that is used to burrow through the nose, which obviously forms the famous image that we all have of the Sambia people. Throughout much of the 6 stages, the act of having the stick of cane inserted into the nostrils and the performance of fellatio are integral to the process of becoming a man. In one of the stages, the children are hit with stinging nettles, and when you see the footage of this, it looks extremely excruciating and horrifying. I couldn't imagine myself going through such a process. The boys are then dressed in a ritual clothing, and an attempt is made to force them to suck on ritual flutes. The boys are taken to a cart house, and the older boys dance in front of them, making sexual gestures. So all of this, as mentioned at the top of the video, this may seem extremely barbaric or unnormal to us Westerners. However, to these people, this is extremely normal. These people would have undertaken these rituals for hundreds, if not thousands and thousands of years, only for us to go in with our own perception of how essentially life should be led. But this is a completely different way of life that these people are used to, and they have undertaken for a very, very long time. So at one stage during the process, once it gets darker, the younger boys are taken to the dancing ground where they're expected to perform a fellatio on the older boys. So this is one part of the whole ritual that most people are certainly against. This is what gets highlighted a lot within Western media and Western society. This is the key practice that a lot of people do not agree with. However, regardless of our own personal beliefs and understanding about these practices, it is imperative that we are at least cognizant to their significance and purpose for such tribes. For example, while many of us might might brand these young men and boys homosexuals in the sense that they have a lasting desire for men without the need or desire for women once they have passed their rite of passage into manhood. They marry women and they do become fathers in the end. So let's talk modernization of the tribe itself. In the 70s, the system of collective initiations known as the Makayu was curtailed, which is obviously the initiation we have been talking about throughout this whole episode. By the end of the 80s, the ritual of the boy insemination had been abandoned, although certain other traditional teachings, such as nose bleeding rituals, still continued. Beginning in the 90s, a new form of social sexuality appeared known as the love marriage, where romantic love became the basis of choosing a partner. Several factors contributed to the slow decline of the traditional rituals among the Sambia. In the 1960s, the Australian government forced the end of perpetual warfare between tribes in the Papua New Guinea. Eventually, this led to a significant altering of male identity and the warrior culture that had long sustained their initiation rituals. Immigration beginning in the late 1960s also contributed to the change, as tribal members began to leave the highlands to work on coastal cocoa, copra and rubber plantations. This exposed the Sambia people to the outside world, with its fast food, alcohol, sex with female prostitutes, western goods and money. With the passage of time, it would contribute to the ideas of romance and marriage as team of equals, rather than the traditional hierarchical antagonistic model. Schools, both governmental and missionary, were introduced into the Sambia Valley in the late 1970s. Schools began to displace initiation as a primary means of gaining access to valued positions within the expanding society. Education was co-ed, which was not only increased women's social standing, but for the first time in Sambia society, the genders were mixed in a more intimate space prior to marriage. Increasing contact with the outside world led to the appearance of material goods which undermined the local economy, and traditional masculinity no longer achieved through the production of local goods such as bows and arrows. Christian missions also played a part. They also factored in the change through the introduction of schools, material goods and foreign foods. Missionaries preached against the shamans, the practice of polygamy and the boy initiations, shaming Sambia elders who still advocated traditional activities. Missionaries had a strong presence among the Sambia, introducing Levitical dietary restrictions which dramatically altered the indigenous diet, since pigs and other animals deemed, open quotes, unclean were no longer hunted. Thus, one of the major social and political activities for the Sambian men, hunting, was abolished among the Christian converts within society. All of these developments contributed to the sexual revolution among the Sambia. The end of the war, which was introduced by the Australian government, changes in opportunities for women via schooling, exposure to the outside world with its ideas via immigration, new government and missionaries, along with changes in economy, in trade of goods, food procurement, and the end of one social activity such as hunting, with substitution of a new industry, coffee trees for example, which changed traditional roles what men used to undertake, which obviously led them to undertake these rituals. So of course this is the updated version of the Semen drinking tribe video. So if you're watching this video and you're not subscribed to the channel, please do make sure that you do hit that subscribe button. If you are listening to the podcast on the audio version, by all means just hit that subscribe button as well on whatever platform you're listening to. Once again, thank you for watching News Breakdown.